Hi, Mark, and welcome to the current Outside Views report on Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. If you believe those people who know what's going on behind the thick walls of the Kremlin, things have been going on for years like in a Shakespeare drama. Just worse. Power struggle, intrigues, secret deals, and absurd deaths. And according to insiders, these are the ingredients that the court of totalitarian ruler Vladimir Putin is made of today. Well-deserved generals disappear overnight, former Kremlin favorites fall out of office windows, or prominent figureheads of Putinism suddenly flee abroad, such as recently the multiple Olympic champion Yelena Isinbayeva, who is now apparently pursuing a life of luxury on Tenerife. The strangest case, however, is that of Yevgeny Prigozhin. Once one of Putin's most useful henchmen, he has hardly been seen since he failed uprising at late June. As the US think tank ISW analyzes in its latest management report, the Kremlin is now supposed to tighten its course again against the Wagner boss. Putin has previously tried to portray Prigozhin as corrupt, as a liar. His reputation is to be destroyed, not only among the Wagner mercenaries, but also in the Russian public, said the ISW about the change of strategy. Apparently, with the campaign, Putin wants to drive a wedge between Prigozhin and the commanders of the mercenary force. In mid-May, the Wagner fighters secured the Russian army's greatest success to date when, after months of fighting, they were able to capture the eastern Ukrainian city of Bakhmut. As a result, Prigozhin intensified his attacks on the Russian military leadership and finally began the so-called March on Moscow in order to convince his longtime confidant Putin to resign the Russian defense minister Sergei Shoigu, so to fire him. But the mutiny failed. Many experts were surprised that he was even seen alive afterwards. Normally, those who openly oppose the ruler Putin do not survive long in Russia. And Prigozhin, on the other hand, not only attended a meeting with the president at the end of June, but also appeared on the sidelines of the important Russian-Africa summit in St. Petersburg in July. The Russia expert Alexander Gabuyev from the Carnegie Russia Eurasia Center recently speculated in the German magazine Spiegel that Prigozhin is still needed, for example, for international business with African regimes. Many of these local connections only exist thanks to Prigozhin or his men. Among other things, Prigozhin's Wagner mercenaries are active in Libya, Mali, the Central African Republic, and Niger, where Democratic President Mohamed Bazoum was deposed by putschists at the end of July. After a period of relative calm between Putin and Prigozhin in July, according to ISW information, the Russian despot is apparently trying again to discredit and isolate the Wagner boss. The Wagner fighters from Belarus, where many of them went into exile after the failed uprising, are to be brought back to Russia and integrated into the Russian army units. In fact, according to unconfirmed reports, some of the mercenaries left Belarus and are now back in Russia. Also because the Belarusian dictator Alexander Lukashenko apparently refuses to pay the fighters, as is the Kremlin. And there is speculation among Russian military bloggers that the Wagner mercenaries may be more likely to return to missions in Africa, where Prigozhin's organization is designed to help bring warlords and coup plotters to power. In return, the Wagner Group will probably receive lucrative contracts to prospect for mineral resources. According to the ISW, Putin is increasingly concerned that Prigozhin could stand in the way of his long-term plans. He therefore caused the discrediting campaign against the oligarch to be intensified. If that's true, it could mean that Putin has made his original goal of bringing down Prigozhin and clearly separating him from the rest of the Wagner Group a priority again. Academic Alexander Gabuyev answers why Putin is staging such intrigues against the businessman and oligarch at all, instead of simply liquidating him, as is common in dictatorships. According to this, Prigozhin may have a collection of compromising material about the Russian leadership. Reminds me a little bit of Raymond Reddington, I must say. This means of pressure, the so-called kompromat, popular among Russian Secret Service agents, could be a kind of life insurance for the mercenary boss. Before they eliminate a Prigozhin, they have to know what information he is hiding and where he's hiding that. And as I said, reminds me of Raymond Reddington. That's from one of my most favorite TV series, the Blacklist. Real life can sometimes match TV, I must say. I'm sorry about laughing at this point because the whole matter is very serious, but sometimes it's just, we in Germany call it Galgenhumor. That's a kind of dark humor at points like this. So you definitely, this is another example where you can see what's going on in the Kremlin nowadays. And if you want to know more about the developments in the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, the next video is here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.